Welcome to the Faculty of Humanities Universitas Indonesia, or FIB UI Campus, Depok. Let me begin by giving you a warm welcome to the Critical Island Studies Publishing Forum. Welcome, everyone. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Cisanti Arumsari, and I will be your host today. I also would like to welcome our esteemed guest, the Vice Dean for Education, Research and Student Affairs, Dr. Untung, the Dean of the Faculty of Letters, Universitas Kristen, Indonesia, Ibu Dr. Susan Sitohang, our keynote speaker, Dr. Vincent Serrano. Today's event is the follow-up event from the Critical Island Studies Symposium, which has been held from the 10th to 11th October 2022 at UKI Campus, Jakarta. The Critical Island Studies Consortium is composed by 7 Asian universities: Ateneo de Manila University, University of Santo Tomas, Universitas Kristen Indonesia, Universitas Indonesia, Sanata Dharma University, Universitas Gajah Mada, and Konkuk University. This year, the conference is hosted by Universitas Kristen Indonesia and Universitas Indonesia. This year's theme is about maritime across disciplines. Ladies and gentlemen, before we continue our session, let us watch the safety induction video of this auditorium. We also kindly ask all of you to follow health protocols when attending our sessions by wearing a face mask, keeping a safe distance, washing your hands, and avoiding crowd. Thank you. Today's event is about the Critical Island Studies Publishing Forum, which we will listen to the presentation of our keynote speaker, Dr. Vincent Serrano, the Editor-in-Chief, Journal of Kritika Kultura, Ateneo de Manila University, Philippines. He will talk about publishing academic research on island studies. After a keynote session, we will listen to the introductory presentations from 10 participating journals that are members of the Critical Island Studies Publishing Network. Ladies and gentlemen, before we get on to the main session, we will first hear opening remarks from the Vice Dean for Academic Research and Student Affairs, Faculty of Humanities Universitas Indonesia, Dr. Untung.
Thank you, Ms. Chisa. First, let me open my mask a moment to show my face. Thank you, Ms. Very good morning, distinguished guests from the Critical Island Network, Critical Island Studies Network. First of all, I would like to apologize for the Dean's absence for this important meeting because of his obligatory duties to fulfill the invitation from the Coordinating Minister for Political, Legal and Security Affairs this morning. So I represent him today, this morning, to open this important event. So let me read the Dean's remarks. Distinguished guests from the Critical Island Studies Network, our respected collaborative partner, Dr. Susan Sitohang, Dean of Fakultas Sastra dan Bahasa UKI, Honorable Dr. Maria Luisa Torres Ruiz, Editor-in-Chief of the 100-year-old Unitas Journal and Scholar Residence in the University of Santo Tomas, our keynote speaker, Dr. Vincent Serrano, Editor-in-Chief of the renowned international journal Kritika Kultura, and of course, our professor, Ibu kita, our mother, Profesor Melanie Budianta, you, Melanie. Representatives from respected journals in the region, Kritika Kultura, Unitas, Humaniora, Puitika, Dialektika, Wacana, Paradigma, Wacana and Paradigma are our journals, and also International Journal of Language and Culture, International Journal of Humanity Studies, and International Review of Humanity Studies. Some editions of journals are displayed at the back. Distinguished reviewers, representatives, and participants from the University of Santo Tomas Ateneo, the Manila University, De La Salle University Manila, Konkuk University, Kyunghee University, National Taiwan Normal University, National Donghua University, Universitas Gadjah Mada, Universitas Sanata Dharma, Universitas Maranatha, UKI, and Universitas Indonesia. Good morning to you all and welcome to enjoy the lush green campus of FIB UI. The Faculty of Humanities Universitas Indonesia is very honored to co-host the prestigious Critical Island Studies Publishing Forum and Writing Workshop in conjunction to the two-day symposium which was held at UKI yesterday and the day before. These three activities, academic symposium, writing workshop, and publishing forum, are crucial steps in knowledge production about this strategic topic, maritime across disciplines, seen from Icelandic perspectives. This is indeed a brilliant idea, because from the coast of Taiwan to Indonesian archipelago, to the Philippines, and up to the Korean shores, we are connected by ocean. Unfortunately, we often forget about our connectivity because we have inherited a colonial legacy which tried to erase the maritime orientation of our Icelandic nations. We should remember that in the past, the seafaring Bugis traders sailed with their pinisi boats across the Southeast Asia region up to the Madagascar in South Africa and established relations with the Australian Aborigines before the British landed in Australian shores. Next month, the faculty will also hold a seminar on ships that invites also the Embassy of Italy and Mexico in our this Natalis seminar series. The cultural connection in the region has been woven through the waves. The Panji stories from 16th century East Java in the 16th century traveled to southern Thailand, Malaysia, and southern Philippines. Cultural similarities between traditional dances and clothes of northern Sulawesi with those in the neighboring islands of the Philippines also attest this meeting of Icelandic cultures. Romanticizing the past or fixing our gaze backwards, however, would not lessen the challenges of the present. There are two issues that we need to unpack. First is the uneven global traffic of knowledge. Up to the mid-20th century, most knowledge about our islands were handed down from Europe and the USA. The earliest Western accounts of our islands bear colonial perspectives, and to date, some are still not free from ethnocentric, European or Western bias, if not Orientalist ideology. We need to produce more knowledge from our own ends to have a balanced and healthy scholarly dialogue about our region. Secondly, we need to foster a stronger Icelandic and maritime perspective in building our knowledge, as there lies our future, the sustainability of our islands and archipelago. The seriousness of this matter needs to be underlined, as the fate of our lives is in the islands and archipelago is under the threat of climate change. Professor Maria Luisa Torres Ruiz, I was told by Professor Melanie, humorously said, the exact number of our islands is hard to count because it depends on whether we count them in the low tide or high tide.
Exactly.
Truly, this quote opens up our eyes to the life and death matter. If our scholars do not start to see reality from islandic perspectives, then who will be responsible for the future of our younger generations in the face of natural and man-made ecological disasters? In the present stage of global capitalism, no nation is free from the vast environmental damages, deforestation and pollution caused by megacity urbanization, high-tech industrialization and consumptive lifestyle. This tendency has caused the marginalization of indigenous population in the hinterland as well as rural and coastal area, robbing them not only of their land, shores, etc., but also their knowledge, cultural heritage and tradition. Thereby, the topic of maritime across disciplines suggests an apt scholarly venture to face such a multidimensional problem. We need a more rigorous inter- and transdisciplinary dialogue to deal with our common challenges. It is most appropriate that scholars of the humanities, literature, and also arts serve as initiators for such a collaborative venture. Our scholarship needs to keep people at the center, to underline the importance of solidarity of the human species, regardless of race, gender, religion, nationality, to find alternative systems, a more humane way to sustain our communities. Literature, the arts, and humanities have kept alive the spirit of collaboration, caring, and mutual support. Ladies and gentlemen, the today's symposium at UKI have served as a venue for scholars to present their research, theorizing their findings, and formulating new visions. The writing workshop is an opportunity for scholars to systematically arrange their data and thoughts and polish their arguments into well-written pieces. And the Publishing Forum, which we are about to begin this morning, is the channel for promoting the accumulated knowledge worldwide. As I mentioned earlier, not only knowledge flows from the north to south in an even way, our scholars, in the need for global acknowledgement, often looks at journals published in Europe or the USA to publish their research. To balance this, we need to strengthen knowledge from the region. Quan Xing-Chen once reminded us in his seminal book, Asia as Method, that we need more acts of inter-referencing between one nation and islands within the region to learn from one another and to build knowledge together. This forum, this Critical Island Studies Publishing Forum, is an important step for scholars to be introduced to the various high-quality journals available here in the region. I greatly appreciate the whole Critical Island Studies Network for designing the complete package and for the organizing committee of UKI and UI to make it happen. I also thank the reviewers, participants, and representatives of the various journals who flew from the Philippines, Korea, Taiwan, and Jogja as well, as well as those who attended online for their effort and contribution. Have a productive and enlightening Critical Island Studies Publishing Forum and Writing Workshop. During break, do not forget to stroll along the waters near the bridge and enjoy the fresh air of Faculty of Humanities Universitas Indonesia. Thank you. Mariming salamat. Hamsa hamnida. Xie.
Thank you, Dr. Untuk for the welcome speech. The next session, we will listen to our keynote speaker, Dr. Vincent Serrano, the Editor-in-Chief Journal of Kritika Kultura, Ateneo de Manila University, Philippines. This keynote session will be led by Professor Melanie Budianta as the moderator. Allow me to give a short introduction about our moderator for keynote and plenary session, even though I know most of us have known Professor Melanie well. Professor Melanie Budianta is a professor in the Literature Department of the Faculty of Humanities Universitas Indonesia with expertise in gender studies, post-colonialism, comparative literature, and cultural studies. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Professor Melanie Budianta.
Morning, everybody. We are very honored to have our keynote. I think he is the director and principal editor of Kritika Kultura. This journal has been there for how many years?
20.
20 years. Let's give a round of applause. And one of the most important aspect of this journal is that it really gave a space for literature and humanities in the center. So it is a very good journal for all of you to publish. Please look at the website and see all the previous published articles in the journal. And Dr. Vincent Serrano is not only a scholar, an editor, but also a poet. Yeah, he has published so many works, and probably later on, if we have the chance, we would ask him to recite one of his poems. Or he would like to please, Dr. Fitz. Now we would hear what he could say about publishing, which is an important part of our work as a scholar. Yeah? We have done research, but we need to publish. And one important aspect that we often forget, as Untung has already mentioned, is the Icelandic perspective. So Dr. Fitz is going to combine these two aspects, the publishing aspect and how to publish in this very important subject. Time is yours.
Hello, everyone. I think I will follow the lead of our dean and show my face for a few minutes. Right. So first of all, a word of gratitude and acknowledgement is in order. First, I would like to thank our host, Ibu Professor Melanie Budianta, for the gracious invitation to do this keynote lecture, even though I think I'm underqualified for such a task. I would also like to acknowledge and give thanks to Ibu Professor Ied Sitepu and Ibu Professor Susan Sitohang for organizing the Critical Island Symposium over the past couple of days. I hope we will see that these two activities, even though held in 3 separate days in 2 campuses, are of a piece. We see they're integrated, okay, and that hopefully, like the theme of the conference, the activities flow from one to the other. Okay, so first and foremost, just a brief background on the conference. I'm sure most of the speakers who are here are already exhausted and tired of this particular topic. But for the benefit of our audience in UI, I just like to say that after 3 years of absence due to the pandemic, the Critical Islands Studies Consortium, I think there's a brief introduction of the universities, current universities, and thankfully during our business meeting, new universities as well. So we have colleagues and friends, both old and new, were able to stage a conference on the theme of maritime across the disciplines. We encountered papers on topics as varied as geopolitics, stories and epics from the Philippines, short stories and novels from Indonesia, animated shows on Netflix, the anthology of seascapes, Jeju Island, narratives by women from the Dutch colonial period, Indonesian students' perceptions of the sea, marine debris, among others. In the conference, the theoretical frameworks and methodological approaches were manifold, to say the least. Speakers engaged with their topics from the vantage points of Leibnizian philosophy, memory studies, post-colonial theory, Foucauldian theory, theories from the Caribbean, ecosystems theory, spatial theory, again, to name a few, just a sampling of the approaches and concepts that were discussed throughout 2 days. Okay, so in other words, that part, exciting as it was, is done. And now we proceed to an equally exciting but difficult part, okay, and what happens next. So after the conference is done. That said, no, to my mind, a conference, to my mind, is just one mode of communication which researchers may utilize in order to convey their findings. We may imagine these modes of communication as forming a spectrum of options, from the informal and ephemeral, such as sharing sessions or brown bag meetings, book discussion groups, and the like. And I'd like to say that even during the breaks, even during breakfasts, discussing with my colleagues from the Island Studies Consortium, I remember Professor Iping and I discussing Taiwanese and Philippine literature. You can consider these informal, if you like, modes of communication wherein ideas are exchanged, okay, references, what books to read, and so on, and among others, are exchanged. Within that spectrum of options, you can have more formal events, and yet arguably ephemeral, okay, such as lecture series, okay, or even in a larger scale as what we have now, a conference and a workshop. Even yet other modes of communication can include long-standing types of publication, including book chapters, contributions to anthologies, and yes, more recent forms of conveying our findings, such as podcasts, YouTube explainers, Bookstagram, if you've heard of it, making comments on Twitter, and so on and so forth. That said, it is within this continuum that we can locate the journal, okay, which is arguably, according to the conventions of our profession, one of the principal means by which researchers communicate and are evaluated, and by which knowledge is produced and disseminated. Without a doubt, as academics, we are in the profession of knowledge production. We organize conferences and present in them. We lead graduate seminars and conduct undergraduate lectures. We advise students in their thesis writing. We serve in their panels, okay, among many other things which we do inside the academy. But within our profession, it is the evaluated, public, formal, and final nature of the journal article that enjoys a perceived status and importance. What enables the journal to attain this status? Again, according to our profession, it's peer review. Peer review is a systematic, critical, and constructive review of the submitted manuscript by two or more scholars from the same academic community as the author. To this end, I would like to highlight a number of characteristics from this proposition, including one, systematic, meaning to say the evaluator examines the manuscript for any And ideally, all of these elements, including the argument, the theoretical framework, the methodology, significance of the study, writing style, article structure, research ethic, meaning to say the accuracy of the citations, checking against plagiarism, among others. Number 2, critical, meaning to say the evaluator examines the manuscript and points out areas or a number of its shortcomings, which may include a lack of fit in the journal, weak explication of theory or method, inability to explain the significance of the study, particularly to the readers of the journal. Number 3, constructive, meaning to say the evaluator looks at the manuscript for its potential, its promise to contribute to the discourse in the field, contingent on, of course, the process of revision. And finally, I think this holds true to the theme of the past 2 days and hopefully including today, this aspect of community, meaning to say that the editor has to take care that there are affinities, hopefully to a significant degree, between the evaluator and the author, which means to say the evaluator and the author need not match exactly, but hopefully, given the evaluator's expertise in both primary and adjacent areas covered by the manuscript, the evaluator can hopefully have something to say about the work under review. I would like to emphasize that it's precisely this aspect that a journal, its processes, protocols, the very concept expressed in its editorial statement, the members of the International Board of Editors, the members of the advisory board, which the journal invites, and yes, even the reviewers who do the invisible and often unremunerated work on which the prestige of the journal rests, and finally, of course, the readers who download the open access PDFs or pay for subscriptions as the case may be. All these constitute, however overtly or implicitly, the journal's community. But this is just the editorial part. Once a manuscript is accepted for publication, the manuscript, as we very well know, undergoes various stages of production. Copy editing ensures readability and clarity. If on the one hand, for example, evaluators read for substance, engagement with materials, grasp of theory, among others, can get across the journal's readers. This can mean anything from context building, clarification of key terms, unpacking the analysis more substantively, among others. As an aside, I remember Igolulu, when I was still working as her associate editor and starting out author, would send numerous comments from both evaluators and copy editors alike. And this was like lesson learned. She would say, Vince, you're not just talking to your seminar, you're talking to a wider audience. Okay, so meaning to say, it's not just the evaluator, but it's also the copy editor who will make sure that the manuscript is accessible, is readable, is understandable, not just to the immediate community of readers, okay, but also perhaps to a wider, anticipated, imagined community who we may not know or meet firsthand. Okay, so I remember these comments would say, explain more about your author. I do research on Nick McKin, National Artist of the Philippines, and she would say, do not assume that your audience knows Nick Joaquin. You have to explain what that means, and that's just the background. And then more comments on what is your theoretical framework? You're doing historiography. Explain what historiography is. Okay, yes, bulu. Things like that. So those things, even if the manuscript is accepted for publication, there are still longer stages. Okay, there are still more stages that will ensure that the manuscript itself is not just developed, but also polished. Okay, polished for not just the immediate audience, okay, your classmates, your peers within the journal, but as was constantly emphasized to me, a wider range of readers. Okay. So after copy editing, you get proofreaders who will ensure that there are no errors in the format, the spelling, citation, and that the journal article adheres to standards with regard to citation, documentation, spelling, among others. And it never ends. After the journal issue is published, post-publication tasks such as distribution, marketing, indexing, archiving, and so on and so forth will follow. I will say that although this is beyond the scope of my lecture, I think most if not all of us are subject to and even burdened by the problems and limitations of indexing, particularly by big databases. We have a slide on that later. So allow me now to turn to some reflections on emerging and long-standing challenges. Again, for seasoned editors, okay, for mid-career editors, okay, starting out editors, I'm sure these challenges and hopefully potentials are not new to you. Okay? But I do understand from Ibu Melanie that we have a good number of new authors in the audience. So I hope this will not put you off into the, not just the difficulties of writing a journal article and publishing in a journal, okay? But I hope this will also edify us into actually doing well and excelling. And as mentioned by our welcoming remarks by our dean, it will really increase knowledge production and allow us to convey, okay, our insights, our knowledge, and hopefully our wisdom to our fellow consortium members and to audiences. As we know, in the editorial process, there are a few, or maybe not just few, but there are common problems among journals, including what? A lack of peer reviewers. So in a study titled The Political Economy of Academic Publishing, which examined academic publishing in the social sciences in Europe, the co-authors Puringer et al. Claimed in 2019 the typical social scientist reviewed around 7 manuscripts, okay, at least with that year in 2019. In addition, in the same study, the co-authors claimed that each review took approximately 7 hours to finish. Okay, to be sure, of course, this study, Political Economy of Academic Publishing, was conducted in Europe with its data set as researchers from the social sciences. Given the more exacting work conditions in Southeast Asia, sad to say, with academics teaching around 30 units or credits a year or more, we can imagine that not only do academics review lesser manuscripts, I'm not sure, like to my life, maybe like if we review 7 manuscripts a year, okay, maybe less, no? In addition, we take more hours to complete a review. Okay, and again, I'm sure, like, if you do agree to review a manuscript, you will get reminder messages from your, the commissioning editor about your impending deadline. Okay. I would also like to say that apart from reviewing for journals, this task competes with other tasks that we as academics are expected to do, including not just teaching, but also committee work, outreach, mentorship, among others. So it is within this particular location, if you'd like, within the academic community, that the tasks of journal editing, okay, and of course the invisible behind-the-scenes work of reviewing, etc., and production work happen. Second, another perhaps difficulty and hopefully challenge is that editorial work requires a knowledge of the field. It goes without saying. Particularly in terms of established and emerging topics, issues, keywords, and books. I cannot overemphasize the importance of keeping abreast with classic and contemporary texts in one's field. When students ask me, Professor, like, why are you in the Department of English? And I say, Well, because I like to read books. Never did I imagine that I would need to read so many books. No? Just to keep abreast of what's happening. So articles, and books, and journals, and things like that. Not only that, it's not just the knowledge of the current classic and emerging literature. We also need, as is constantly emphasized to me by Ibu Lulu, a wide network from which to draw. Okay, which means soliciting manuscripts. Soliciting manuscripts, inviting reviewers, okay, and as I hope to show later, inviting resource persons for guest lectures, many other things, which I hope a journal, okay, can do. So there's that. So it's not just an awareness of what's happening in the field, my field of literary and cultural studies, okay, but also adjacent fields in social sciences. One of my adjacent fields is history. I like reading history, theories of history, historical fiction, among others. So I'm obliged to learn more about that particular area. But that's not just the only topic which contributors, both from Critica Cultura, Unitas, okay, Humanoria, among others, contribute. There's more. Okay. Number 3, a third challenge would be that journals need to fine-tune journal policies and practices to adapt to changing publishing ecosystems. And to which I would just give us a small example. No? I'm sure a number of the editors from journals in Indonesia, Philippines, okay, and further afield were aware of the online conference, Asian Journals Network, in which participants noted difficulties in promoting journals and suggested ways to address this, such as cross-site promotions, forming panels to participate in conferences such as MLA, AAS, among other organizations, including, of course, Critical Island Studies Consortium. To address lack of manuscripts, it was also suggested that journals invite guest editors who can bring their journal, their own disciplinary expertise and network of authors and reviewers. Okay, so again, a third challenge to reiterate would be how can journals adapt to changing publishing ecosystems. The environment of academic publishing is changing. At least in the Philippines, when I have discussions with acquaintances in journalism, they ask, should we go to TikTok? And I'm thinking, should journal editors go to TikTok? I don't know yet. I'll discuss this with my staff. Yeah, so things like that, we shall see. But again, keeping with the idea that I have, that a journal is kind of like a locus of a certain community or multiple communities. It has that capacity to not just to communicate knowledge, that is the standard awareness of what the journal is, but it has the knowledge, it has the capacity to serve as a locus for a community or multiple communities in our case. And given that vision, we shall see. Okay. And finally, an equally pressing problem would be the problem of succession in terms of editors and staff, among others. Journals need to ensure continuity of editorship. I think this is another concern mentioned in the Asian Journals Network. Need to maintain continuity of editorship, need to maintain the standards of peer review, which are embodied in the editors and the peer reviewers that editors choose, and equally importantly, maintaining and expanding the journal's own network. Training of junior editors and staff members, to be sure, can help ensure this continuity. Okay, but again, as we hopefully know, this sort of training of editors and staff is predicated on institutional support. With respect to production, I'll just go over this quickly, since I think we have 10 minutes left. With respect to production, a number of problems. include the difficulty of finding staff members who can do specialized work of copy editing, proofreading, layout, among others. So this type of work is as equally specialized as editing. You need to understand the journal format. In our case, it's MLA. In other journals, it's Chicago. And that's a specialized skill set as well. Okay? Following production and publication, we have post-publication concerns, which include costs for maintaining a website, and as the case may be, a repository, impact factor, journal ranking, among others, to which I think I'd like to turn briefly. I'd like to highlight, this is one concern after publication, when institutions are worrying about rankings and H-indexes, etc. Philip C.C. Wang's article, Citation Indexes, Uses and Misuses, which points out how standards initially meant for publication in the natural sciences over time became applied to the humanities and the social sciences. Next slide, please. Okay. As Wang observes, a sense of domination pervades the business of citation indexes as we move, quote, across the spectrum from the more universalist end of natural sciences towards the more particularist end of the social sciences and arts and humanities. Such methods have tended to violate ever more the fundamental nature and realities of scholarly research. In other words, the realities of scholarly research is that it is plural. We have a plurality of research cultures, plurality of research practices, of research agendas in various countries, and this plurality is even more pronounced in countries in the global south. Okay? Moreover, these difficulties, the domination, if you like, of indexes, is even more exacerbated in countries in the global south, precisely because it calls for a certain standardization and a certain leveling impacted by these citation indexes, a situation made even worse by the uneven development wrought by global capitalism. Paradoxically, however ideal it is, I don't know, this attempt at standardization, at making sure there's a unified metric, in actually existing terms, creates hierarchies and tiers, which wherein scholars prefer to publish in top-ranked journals instead of, say, less visible publications that nevertheless address community issues even more. Next slide, please. To conclude, I would not like to end on such a pessimistic note. By way of conclusion, I would like to offer two propositions. First, again, ideal as it sounds, I would like to affirm that the notion of journal editing is an intellectual activity at par with other intellectual activities expected of us academics on campus, designing syllabi, conducting seminars with students, teaching, among others. Second, I would also like to propose that we re-envision the journal not just a venue for publication, but also as a so-called cultural mediator. Next slide, please. So first, Marshall Brown, in his article, What's Intellectual About Journal Editing, says that, quote, editors are perpetual learners. The editor is often not an authoritative judge of an essay's topic, argument, or approach. My first encounter with an essay then is almost always in terms of its conduct than of its contents. Is the argument soundly reasoned, well supported, lucidly organized, presented appropriately for the essay's audience? I try to deal in intellectual basics. Everyone's peer is a collegial reader, not a better informed one. I approach essays initially for what they teach, not for what they know. Close quote. In other words, Brown treats his authors collegially, looking at the author's manuscript with a sense of openness, trying to identify how the manuscript can participate in the disciplinary conversations within and hopefully outside the academic community. Next slide, please. For Brown, working on journal manuscripts is also tantamount to what he calls, quote, developmental work. An activity that combines the editor's intellectual and pedagogical faculties. Open quote. You take a submission and try helping it become the best essay it can be. Whether it finally lands in your journal or in a different one, or remains an improved dissertation chapter, or leads to stronger work later on, the acknowledgements one gets from authors are precious. But the pedagogical and intellectual functions don't lend themselves to neat separation. The pedagogy lies in how editors address their interlocutors. It is preceded on the part of the editor personally, or of the reviewer as editor, by the hard work of construing and often reconstructing an argument, interrogating its basis, its conduct, and its presentation. What this means, close quote, what this means is that editing a journal entails expertise in the field, expertise in argumentative writing, scholarly writing, with, of course, as Brown would say, the pedagogical aim of turning the manuscript into the best version of itself. Editing an article assumes an accumulated knowledge of the discipline, an accumulated network, among others. My second and concluding proposition involves re-envisioning the journal not just as a venue for publication, but as a cultural mediator. I take my cue from the translation theorists Diana Roig-Sands and Ren Naylor's edited volume, Literary Translation and Cultural Mediators in, quote, peripheral, close quote, cultures, custom officers, or smugglers. In their volume, they describe the cultural mediator as a cultural actor, active across linguistic, cultural, and geographical borders, occupying strategic positions within large networks, and being the carrier of cultural transfer, close quote. In one of their case studies, next slide please, a contribution from Karen Thorber, who took up the case of Mashal books from Lahore, Pakistan. You can see there the preoccupations of Mashal books. They are able to bring works into Urdu from North America and Europe, and these works come from various disciplines. What is equally notable is that it is not just academic work which Mashal translates, but they also translate literary works into Urdu. And these literary works come from Asia and Africa, which I would understand as a gesture of South-to-South solidarity. Next slide, please. Okay. In a modest sense, I would like to think that our journals, and by extension, the Critical Island Studies Consortium, has acted in ways akin to cultural mediation. Just to identify the two journals that I am proximate to, Universitas and Critica Cultura, have a long-standing lecture series in which members of our consortium have participated. In this sense, this lecture series is designed to be not just an accompaniment to journal production, but hopefully taking the lead in knowledge production. Okay? Although, as I mentioned earlier, in a more informal, ephemeral sense. Okay? Again, I go back to where I started with. We have at our disposal numerous ways to convey our insights, okay? Numerous ways to convey our findings, of which, formally speaking, the conference is one, journal publication is another. Next slide, please, to show more. Melanie lectured for us, thank you, Melanie. And also for Universitas. Next slide, please. Yeah, she mentioned, yeah. So to conclude, I would like to say that one vision that I share with our founding editor, Bululu, is that we are not just a journal. Okay, we are not just a journal which publishes academic articles. That is already an expectation. But perhaps moving forward, and I'm happy that the consortium has met again, and today this publishing workshop is happening. I would like to perhaps propose that the journal can act as a so-called cultural mediator. Okay, so meaning to say, with its numerous activities, including, okay, but not limited to, journal publication, a lecture series is one, our emerging conference series is another. In this sense, the publishing forum helps in transferring skills from senior editors to authors and junior editors. All these are ways for this cultural transfer to happen. So with that, I think my time is up, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much, Vince, for such an eye-opening lecture about the processes of journal production. Yeah, he is the right person to know the dirty work behind it. You see the journals is shiny and very nice, but all the work that has to be done. Sometimes it takes more than 1 year to publish one article. So thank you very much for the enlightening keynote. And we all know now that journal is not only publishing, but doing a lot of cultural mediating work, yeah, that we all now are engaging in this forum. So I'm very happy to invite 8 journals, yeah, 8 or 9 journals to come up forward, and later on, all the audience who are, of course, very invested in publishing, you can ask all questions that are in your head, yeah, thinking about how to publish in journals in the region. Okay, so I will invite all journals to come forward. Please come to Tura again, Vince, please sit in front. Please come forward. And Unitas, we have here our mother. Lulu, we call her. And from UI Wacana, is Ibu Lili here? Not yet? Ibu Lili? Yes, please. Ibu Lili. Risma from Wacana. Yeah, okay. From Paradigma. And all other journals, Humaniora, Dialektika, Journal of Language and Culture, and then International Review of Humanities Studies, other journals that are Poetica, Dialektika. Yeah, we have 9 journals. You also, Connie, you have your journal? Oh, okay. All right. Okay. All right. Maybe there are too many chairs, so you can choose one chair. Okay, now let us give a round of applause for these hardworking editors of literary journals. Now each of them are going to talk about their journal, their vision, their scope, and what they would like to propose for you to send your articles to their journals. Yeah? So, without further ado, I think we can start from one to another. Okay, so maybe start with Vince.
Okay, so hello everybody. Hello, good morning. Hi again. My name is Vince from Critical Cultura. I'll just make this. I'll make this quick. Critical Cultura is an online peer-reviewed journal of literary language and cultural studies. So that is our main focus, disciplinary. And in addition to that, we publish creative work. Okay, so it's both academic and a creative journal. And in our creative work section, we publish short stories, poetry, translations, all into English. Well, Critical Cultura section, we usually have the regular section where unsolicited manuscripts are published. And we also have special sections edited by guest editors. Okay, so if you look at our most recent journal, we have two special sections. One on Edel Garciliano, a renowned theorist and critic from the Philippines, and we also have a special section on brain text, ethical and literary criticism, and world literature. And finally, we also have literary section. So we have, I think, a poem in that particular literary section. Critical Cultura is double-blind peer-reviewed. Okay, so meaning to say, our manuscripts go through strict evaluation. After evaluation, we have the production process, okay, copy editing, proofreading, among others. Okay. Yeah. So as I also mentioned in my lecture, Critical Cultura has a lecture series and a reading series, and we are also looking out for resource persons for that particular reading series and lecture series.
Okay, so you can Google Critical Cultura, maybe the website, yeah, please. And then if you have questions later on to Vince, you can raise your hands. Okay, now let's go to Ibu.
Hello, everybody. Everyone calls me Ibu, so feel comfortable to call me that. I am the editor-in-chief of a journal called Unitas. It's a Spanish word which means unity. It is in Spanish because it's a 100-year-old journal. It's the oldest journal in the Philippines that's still extant. Now, the fact that I mentioned is 100 years old is very important because it means, in the first place, that it is a tradition. We have a tradition of intellectual production. Because UNITAS is a publication of the University of Santo Tomas, which is the oldest university in the country as well. It's 400 years old by now. And as far as we know, as far as the archives go, anyway, it is the oldest modern university in the whole of Asia. So, in a way, you can say it's with pride that we have that tradition, but in a way also it is a kind of a burden for me as an educator, for example, to have to be able to align the journals all around in view of that tradition. So, there. So, right at the beginning, it was the language in which it was publishing articles was in Spanish. So, if you're interested in Spanish intellectual production, which is where that group of articles in the early years might also belong. It's very interesting, you know, whether it's Spanish intellectual production or Filipino production that you can classify those articles in. And partly, a small part of the articles in the early years were in English. The reason for that is when it was published the year was 1922. And 1922 is a very important turning point in the history of our country. The generation of intellectuals that were writing for UNITAS at that time were really products of the Spanish educational system. They either studied in the University of Santo Tomas, which is the premier university at that time. Rizal, our national heroes went to the University of Santo Tomas, including Jose Rizal. Or they studied in Spain. The rich ones, the rich families, the mestizos especially, went to Spain to pursue their higher learning. So that's the generation that wrote for UNITAS. That explains why the articles were earlier in Spanish, mostly in English. And it's not just a question of linguistics or language, it's really a question of intellectual traditions, what I'm emphasizing. No? It's, we might call that now Western tradition, right? So if you want to study, in fact historians do this, if you want to study the history of intellectual history of the country, the only place to go is really UNITAS. Yes, because that's the only one that's a continuous publication for 100 years. No? The University of the Philippines, the premier university in the country, was established in 1907 only, you see. And the curriculum was patterned after Harvard, so that is a different intellectual tradition altogether. US is really Europe, right? When University of the Philippines is the United States, right? Exactly. The curriculum in the University of Santo Tomas that produced the sort of ideas that came out in UNITAS in the first years were really from Europe, right? So even the concerns are very European as well. So there. So the linguistic landscape changed more critically only when it came to the picture actually. When it came quite lately only. So English, Spanish and then English, and that was it. As the time went on, it became the balance between Spanish articles and English articles turned. So by the 1960s, most of the articles were already being written in English. And you can also tell that the kind of concerns they were involved in or writing about were really much more American already, no longer European, not more specialized. You know, the Europeans are much broader, in terms of the human person, and there's all this assumption, paradigmatic assumption is like. So that's this intellectual shift. And then, I think in the 80s, one or two articles in Tagalog came out. That because of the rise of emergence of resurgence of Filipino nationalism, even UST had to address that concern, and so one or two articles. Right? But anyway, by then, as you can imagine, all the major intellectuals of the country had already published in UNITAS, including our national artists, US has produced the most number of national artists, you see, from Nico King to, Shoden Jose, they're all part of CBST. So those authors, the kind of perspectives they carry also changed. Nico King is much more European. Jose is less, so. You want it? Yeah. And this is the latest issue that came out only recently, July, right? That's our centennial issue. One of the authors in this issue is here. Yeah, we're happy to. Yeah. Okay, whose contribution to UNITAS has been significant. He's always been a kindred spirit, right? If you must put it that way. And so we're happy he's here. We're also, this is represented by the members of the board. They were invited, but they're to write, to contribute, but their papers were also refereed, right? So they went to the regular process. We have two blind reviewers all the time. These are the members of the International Board. But Michelle Binales is from the University of Hawaii, he's a historian. She had followed a lot, she must be familiar to you, AUS, sociologist, actually University of Singapore. Jonathan Beller is Pratt University, he's an old colleague of mine. He's an art critic, films critic as well. Jose Palagulay is the youngest member. He's a lawyer and legal scholar. We've been thinking of introducing younger scholars into the board, to give it a more dynamic flavor. Jose D. Blanco is University of San Diego, literature department chair for the longest time. I think he's not a chair anymore. Our ever dear Smith, good to have you. She's been wonderful. I don't know what to say. She's really been wonderful and I won't say this, that she's well known scholar, but she says no, I'm not. I said, yes, you are. Where I come from, you are. Okay, so there's nothing. Who else do we have? Richard Chu is a historian from the University of Massachusetts, numbers. Joe David is a film critical scholar, teaching at University gaining some free. Toby Derrick is he's actually a chemist, a tax chemist from Princeton. He's an old friend of mine teaching at Ateneo, but he's really much more concerned with science and society. So he's the one person he's the son of the one who discovered what is there in virgin coconut oil, He was the one who, the family in fact, is a chemist. The family in fact discovered exactly what's inside there that makes for the bacterial, antibacterial, he's that kind of scientist, and we thought we needed that kind for the family. And in fact, he and a philosopher friend put together a special section in UNITAS, the science of ecology and environment, So, that's an interest also in UNITAS. So those of you who are into scientists, don't think UNITAS will not welcome you, right? Because the tagline of UNITAS, by the way, I keep forgetting, the tagline which I invented, UNITAS didn't have a tagline before. Now it has. It's literature, culture, and society. So if you just combine all three or just focus on one, that's fine with us, right? Because traditionally, UNITAS has always been multidisciplinary, right from the beginning. It's always, first it was theology, that's where it began, right? Because it's a prior institution, University of Santo Tomas. So the dominant, the most advanced intellectually, the most advanced department is really theology, right? And then philosophy. That's the way it all began, very classical development. Eduardo Degas Valdez is a friend from University, from Santiago, University of Santiago in Chile, right? He's a historian too, but he's much more concerned with how ideas move around. He's a very cosmopolitan man, right? Who really believes that there has to be active exchange of ideas among peoples around the planet. He has written on national hero results. That's how I met him, because he's written on our national hero. And Gonzaga is another younger. The youngest, in fact, he's older, more. No, I don't remember anyone. But he's a faculty member and director of the Intercultural Studies Center of the Chinese University of Hong Kong. His interest is really in cultural studies. He's done some work on, I think it's a dissertation from University of Berkeley, at the University of Berkeley, University of California at Berkeley. It has to do with Indonesia as well. Leonard Harris is a philosopher from Purdue University, right? 3 more minutes. And of course, Carol Howe is important to mention because she's director of the Center for Southeast Asian Studies at Sebagai University. Also Hung from the National University of Seoul National University, and SNU, Seoul National University. Laurie Cougar is a famous scholar in drama theater, especially African theater. Alex Taekwondo Lee is our board member too. Yeah. We asked for his advice. And then this time, he's head of the Cultural Center of Thailand, of Bangkok. Victor Merriman's Irish, British. Patrick Massaron is really a helpful guy. He's from Shanpo in France. Okay, so we have a whole line out there. So what I'm saying, the point I'm making here is we have a diverse field of experts, right, that help us advise, produce the quality of journal we try to, the level of quality we want to achieve. So don't be afraid. How many of us are literature people here?
Literature people,
Literature people, raise your hand.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. But Tura is also interested in literature, as you know. How many are into the humanities in general, or related fields? We say?
all of them.
Oh, you're lovely. Can you write for Onitas, please?
So Universitas has celebrated centennial issue. That means they are already here for 100 years.
Yeah.
Later on, maybe you want to show the website of After this, maybe, are you ready, Pachana? So please keep your questions, yeah? We will ask, you can ask questions. So you can see the website. Some of the journals, Wacana is already there, yeah? In the back, you can see. This is Kristen Kultura. How many times a year do you publish? How many times a year?
Hello. Yeah. Okay. Twice a year.
Twice a year.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So we publish twice a year, February and August. Okay. And you can look at our current issue now. Scroll up. It's okay. Okay, so I think as I was mentioning earlier, so we have a regular section, okay, so which means these are unthemed articles, unsolicited articles which we receive, okay, very regularly. Okay. And next. Okay, so we have two special sections this issue, both co-edited by Bululu and her colleague. So the first one is Forum Critica on Ethical Literary Criticism, Brain Text, and New Readings of World Literature. It's the second part. The first part appeared, I think, 2 issues ago. And Bululu co-edited this with a colleague from China, Professor Liu Shang. And as you can see, this is an emerging field because it looks at three distinct areas: world lit, ethical criticism, and brain text. I'm happy to say also that Professor Alex is an author And our second special issue is a foreign critica in honor of Edel Garciliano. Okay. And Edel Garciliano was one of our more renowned and, if you'd like, more feisty critics and creative authors. He recently passed away. I'd like to say that this was, I think, a culmination, if you would call it such, of a year-long activity. So first, this project was inaugurated by a lecture series in honor of Professor Edel Garciliano, and then we decided that we would open a call for articles, okay, under the theme of critique. I think critique is one of the keywords of Professor Edel. And the papers that were selected for this issue is under that theme of critique. Second to the last, we have a monogram section. Professor Cory Perez, when she was still in Italy, was the associate editor of this section, so this is her brainchild. Okay, so we have Professor Cory to thank for setting up this particular section. And finally, we have a literary section.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you. So a whole range, yeah? A whole range of topics.
May I just add that Critica Cultura is the only scholarly journal with a literary component,
Yeah.
a literary section.
So how is it translated? Is it only in English, or do you have a process of translating?
So in Critica Cultura, our literary section is only in English, but we accept manuscripts of foreign works translated into English. So we welcome translations from Indonesia, particularly your short stories or poems. And I'd also like to say that the section is also double-blind peer review. Okay, so the translations will go through a double-blind peer review process. So we will ask Mel for help. Okay. And finally, because Critica Cultura is also an academic journal, we will ask the translator to write a short essay explaining the process, politics of the translation. So
We have the translation studies, so you can do that, yeah? Translating and then reviewing, again, talking about the process of translating. Very good. Thank you very much. Would you like to start, Ibu? Yeah.
Okay. I'm chief editor of the Wacana, Journal of the Faculty of Humanities of Indonesia, and Wacana Journal of Indonesia is a peer review open access journal published by the Faculty of Humanities, Universitas Indonesia. We invite original articles on various issues within humanities, which include but are not limited to philosophy, literature, archaeology, anthropology, linguistics, history, cultural studies, philology, arts, library, and information sciences, focusing on Indonesian studies and research. Okay, now this is the editorial team of Wacana, editorial board. So you can see here, Professor Melanie is also in the team with Professor Marika Budiman. Next. So this is our editorial team of Wacana. Yeah. So you can see the pictures. We have three professors from FIB, Professor Marika Budiman, Professor Melanie Budianta, and Professor Sunanto Zubdi. And then we have other professors. You see that Pamela Allen from Australia, Leonard Andaya from Hawaii, and so on and so forth. You can see them. Okay, next. Okay, now the journal was launched for the first time in April 1999 under the name of Wacana Jurnal Ilmu Pengetahuan Budaya. Next, up to 2009, Wacana Jurnal Ilmu Pengetahuan Budaya contained articles mostly in Bahasa Indonesia. Next. But to reach the level of international journal since 2010, starting in volume 12, number 1, April 2010, with a dumb oral tradition in the Malay world, all Wacana articles have been in English. The name of the journal is also adjusted to the current name, Wacana Jurnal of the Universitas of Indonesia. Next. Yeah, Wacana is able to compete internationally by recruiting experts of international reputation for our publication. And so this is just examples of our edition. Yes, thanks. Wacana promotes Indonesian researchers through publications in Wacana and collaborate closely with special editors who are experts in the field of the themes to encourage the realization of this publication. Okay, next. In 2018, Wacana was the first ranked journal in the National Accredited Index, Sintawan, and ranked Q3 in SGR. And Wacana has earned SGR Q2 since 2020. In 2000, okay, next. Okay, the journal published 2 thematic issues per year, a double issue in April and a single issue in October. Wacana Journal of the Universitas of Indonesia can be accessed freely through the website of Wacana. The journal is printed in Indonesia and distributed by Wacana and Yayasan Pustaka Obor Indonesia. We are not only an online journal, but also we have also a printed edition. Okay, next. Now, this is an example of the 2 numbers of Wacana were published in April 2001 and 20 as a double thematic issue. And this is another April edition, a double thematic issue as well. Okay, next is an example of an October issue, Reading Japanese Literature, New Direction. It's a single issue published in October 2021. And this is another example of a single issue, The Art of Giving Meaning in Translation. It's also published in October. Okay, Wacana is regularly asking for open submission. This is an example of a call for papers for the upcoming issues. All articles submitted to Wacana have to be written in English and have not been published elsewhere. And the articles are also not under review for possible publication elsewhere. It should be clear which journal the article is intended for. So if you submit the article, you have to mention to which edition you article intended for. Okay. Next, this is another example of the call for papers. Next. Okay. Now the article submitted should be provided with an abstract, keywords, and a short bio of the others. This one is the call for papers for the edition about travel writing. For more information, you can visit our website www.wacana.ui.ic.id. Okay. So this is Wacana. Thank you.
Yeah. So, Auditorium is thematic, so they have themes, yeah? For, so what the coming theme is?
The coming theme is about the travel
Writing. So you can write travel from the region to the Indonesian island.
So in
So it has to be
Indonesia.
connected to Indonesia.
The complete title of the edition is Cross-Cultural Encounters in the Post-Colonial Context Zone, European and Asian Travel Perspectives in Indonesia, 1850 until 1915.
Oh, this historical.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So
Historical
if
travel
you have
writing.
papers on that subject, you're welcome to send.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Yes.
Has it done online or China?
Yes. Yes. It's
Open access.
It's an open access.
May I just say something?
Yes.
May I just share that I have read back issues of Wacana, right? And I was reading one issue before while writing my paper for the critical island studies. So congratulations.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Now let's go to our guest, from Jogja, yeah? We have.
Hello everyone, my name is Simon. If we meet in the Philippines or in Taiwan or or we meet abroad, probably people will call me Simon, but because it is in Indonesia, then people usually call me Simon instead of Simon. If you call me Simon, probably I will not notice and call me. But anyway, you can call me Simon or Simon, that's okay. Here I'm talking to represent the journal in my study program. Probably you can open the PDF one because I think the format is better. Okay, thank you. This journal is still young. Okay. Yes, Journal of Language and Literature. From the name, we can know that it covers language and literature. However, we also accept papers under cultural studies. If you are in cultural studies, then please send your manuscript or your article to our journal. It's open for cultural studies as well. And our journal is still young compared to Universitas, of course. And what is it? I think we are still we still learn much from other journals, and we also open for collaboration if you are interested in collaborating with us. Just like Vince mentioned previously, journal is not just a venue for publication, but it is a mediator, cultural mediator, and we can collaborate. Next, please. I will talk about the history in a nutshell. It was established some 25-ish years ago in 1997. I think this is the first edition, the cover of the first edition in brown. But now we have a new face of the journal in this color. But yeah, you can find this there. And actually, we do not print the journal anymore. Actually, it is published online. But for some cases, we print it like if we want to distribute it physically. It serves a place for conceptual and research-based articles, so it will cover theoretical discussion and also experimental, article. And it marks one of the department's mission to promote studies in language, literature, and cultural studies. And practically, it answers the needs of lecturers and teachers to publish their articles, because as lecturers and teachers, we are obliged to write articles. We are expected to publish our articles, right? Next, please. Now, the scope, we accept linguistics, literature, translation, cultural studies, especially for the literature. We accept discussion from any languages and cultures, not just English. However, we publish the articles in English, so you need to write the articles in English. But you can discuss any cultures. Yeah, so it opens for any languages and cultures. Translation and cultural studies. So next. It is open access. Yeah, you can access it via the website there. And approximately we have 90 daily visitors. So we kind of count the visitors there, and approximately we have 90 daily visitors. And we publish twice a year. I think similar to Kritika Kultura. The first issue is in April, the second one is in October. And we do not charge for any process of the publication, so it's free. So again, it is an invitation, right? It's free. Just publish your article in our journal. And we are indexed in DOAJ, Crossref, Sinta, the national accreditation for journal in Indonesia. We are ranked Sinta 2. Yeah. So, and then Garuda, Gold Scholar, WorldCat, and Peace. Next. This one is the author guideline. You can find it on the website. Yeah. Next, please. We have also double-blind peer review process. So we try to follow the ethics of the publication as well. Next. Now, we conducted self-evaluation. Currently, there are 500 citations since 2014, and we have been indexed in DOAJ and Crossref, and we have nationally ranked Sinta 2. We have international editorial boards, and we have plan review process. Next. These are the names in the editorial teams. Yeah, actually you can find it as well on the website. And I think that's it from Joel Sarata Dharma. Thank you.
So from Jogja we have another one. Would you like to? No. Okay.
Thank you, Ibu Melanie, for the opportunity. Good morning, beloved authors and also the viewers. Yes. Okay, so this one, you are from Faculty of Humanities Studies, if I'm not mistaken, all of you? Yes. So the name of our journal here, I'm Amita, and I'm from Sebagai University, and the title is International Journal of Humanities Studies. Yeah, he's saying right. Yes. So this one, an international scientific journal. Yes. And this one. Yes. Double peer review. Yes. No. Yeah, it's okay. It's okay. Oh, it's okay. Thank you, Lily. Yeah. We published our article if I'm not mistaken, we started our publication in 2020. So yeah, yes, but what is it? We are accredited to, so national accreditation, and it is published twice a year in September and also March, free of charge. Yes. And yes, free of charge. Yes, and authors throughout the world are warmly welcome to submit original and unpublished papers anytime, all year round. And then the topic here, so literature, language, history, philosophy, arts, cultural studies, and anthropology, yes. So accredited, yes. And what about the reviewers? Yeah, from different countries. We have Indonesia, we have New Zealand, Nelly Martin, and the United States of America, Darren Walker. Australia too, Philippines, yes, China, yes, and from Africa also Nigeria, yeah, yes, yeah, so from different countries. Okay, index, yes, and you can submit your article, just register first and log in, and then we will also welcome for the reviewers. Please feel free to be our reviewers too, because we need like Fins. Can I call you Fins? Yes, Fins has told us that one of the challenges in this kind of work is lack of reviewers. Yes, so welcome. Thank you so much, Ibu Melanie, for the opportunity.
Selamat pagi, good morning everyone. My name is Kristen. I'm a lecturer at English Literature Program, Universitas Kristen, Indonesia, and I'm assigned to represent the editorial board of our journal, Dialektika, Jurnal Bahasa, Sastra, dan Budaya. Yeah. Compared to Unitas and Kritika Kultura, our journal is, I think, the youngest, yeah, of the 9 journals here, 8 or 9 journals. So our journal is published by English Literature Study Program, Faculty of Letters and Languages, and the printed edition is already available since 2013, but our online version started in the year 2020. Our journal is in the process of national journal accreditation, but we have already ISBN, yeah, for the printed edition and the online edition. It is a medium for scientific works of academic community, yeah, especially the lecturers, students of English Literature Program at UKI, but it is also open to students, lecturers, and academics across the world. It is in Indonesian language and in English. The scope of issues, language, literature, culture, language education, because under the Faculty of Letters and Languages, there are English education program and Mandarin language education program. And other issues related to humanities. This is the editorial board. Ibu Susan, I saw her entering the room. Yeah, Ibu Susan is here. She's responsible for this journal. Chief editor is Ibu Masda Surti Simatupang. Unfortunately, she's engaged in other activity at our campus. Yeah, Ibu Susan is already here, right? At the back.
Come please, forward. Come forward please. Ibu Susan is the Dean of Fakultas Sastra dan Bahasa UPI. Welcome to FIB. Okay, would you like to say something?
So let me continue. Members of the editorial board, Pak Janes is here.
Janes, please. Can you stand up? Yeah.
Ibu Yusniati is one of our senior lecturers, but unfortunately she couldn't be with us this morning. And me, Sis Najila Hai. We have expert and independent reviewers, Professor Bahren Umar Siregar from Unika Atmajaya, Jakarta, Dr. Tatang Iskarna M.Hum from Universitas Sanata Dharma, ya. Dan Ibu Melania Winastiti M.Id dari Universitas Bidang Nusantara, Jakarta. We have a secretary, who is in charge of this journal, Pak Yules, but unfortunately he cannot be with us. He's in the selection for the best lecturer. And then you can send your manuscript to this email below, dialektika fsuki@yahoo.co.id, and there are also links that I will show later in the next slides. Our journal is published twice a year, in June and December. The deadline of manuscript acceptance is at the end of May and at the end of November. Starting the year 2020, we have already 4 editions of electronic journal. The next is this is the cover of the latest edition of our journal. So you see, probably it's not easy for you to read, especially if you sit at the back. But we cover issues about linguistics, literature, translation, and cultural studies. Next slide, please. This is the link of the journal, ejournal.uki.ac.id, and then the journal template or the article template, the author guideline, and we don't charge for any publication fee. It's free, and I think in order to invite more writers to submit their manuscripts, we offer incentives to the manuscripts who are accepted and published in the in order to it is still available in this semester. I don't know about the next semester. But if you send your manuscript to us and then you are selected and then your manuscripts are selected and then published, probably you are still entitled to get the incentive. This is the link of the submission of the article. Okay, I think that's all from us. Jurnal dialektika, jurnal bahasa, sastra dan budaya, Faculty of Letters and Languages.
Let's give a applause.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Let's move to UPN.
Selamat pagi, good morning ladies and gentlemen. Yoga from Universitas Gajah Mada, and I'm representing for Human Area and Poetica actually. So these 2 journals is the leading journals in our Faculty of Cultural Sciences, and actually you can hit the web page through ugm.id/bjp. So by hitting the web, you can directly see the website of both journals or even more journal of us. Well, next slide. Well, actually, Humanora, as its name, it's about humanities study and research, as it's in 1989 firstly published under the Faculty of Literature and Philosophy, if I'm not mistaken. So basically, previously we published articles in language, literature, philosophy, or even psychology, and any field in humanities. However, as in 21, if I'm not mistaken, the faculty was separated into different faculties. So here we are, Faculty of Cultural Sciences. Following up this change, we narrowed the scope. So we only publish article which deal with culture and Indonesian related culture. However, still the article can involve the perspective from archaeology, history, media study, tourism, and ethnographic literature, and also sociolinguistic. However, for linguistic or language in practice, we do not publish anymore. It's about the human era, and then Poetica. Actually, it's a spin-off from human era, and it's published firstly in 2011, and we published Poetica as the alternative to accommodate the literature scholars to publish their works. So we can give the scholars two alternatives. If the literature perhaps deal more with humanity, they can submit to human era. However, for those who deal with more literary works, they can submit to Poetica. And previously, the material objects of Poetica are very marvelous: poetry, prose, drama, oral tradition, movie, also music, lyrics, and the likes. However, starting from 2019, we narrowed the material objects into only poetry, prose, drama, and oral tradition. So we do not publish any more articles about movie and lyrics, because we thought that the fields are not about media studies, and the two fields are accommodated in human era. So human era, we can say that it have broaden scope than Poetica. Well, that's about the aim and scope. So we move up to the management. Actually, both journals are managed by the faculty under the Faculty of Cultural Sciences of Universitas Gadjah Mada, and I'm here as the journal manager and the managing editors. So the management team works side by side with the editorial board and the editors as well. So Poetica has its own editorial team and human array as well. So I also want to deliver my special credit to Prof. Lulu for being with us also in advisory board in Poetica through Prof. Wening Dasmoro, and also one of the editor for both journal is also with us. She is Mrs. Nur Saktiningrum. She's at the back, and she's also the Vice Dean of Faculty of Sciences for Students and Academic Affairs. Yep. Back to the journal management. Both the journal, Human Era and Poetica, are indexed by DOIJ and Sinta 2, Indonesian Journal Rank, and it's also open access journal for sure, and OJS based management. So we try to employ the system as good as possible, though we still have obstacles in using it, because we know that the scholars are perhaps not all familiar with the system, so we still assist them to get into the system. Well, then paperless distribution since 2021, so we do not publish printed edition anymore, because in line with the campus vision as a green campus, so we publish only in online version. And then, yeah, sadly, we're still applying the FAC, but however, we still have a waiver for the submission. So, perhaps for 10 articles that we publish in issue, we only received 2 articles that pay the FPC. So the others are free as long as they can argue that they need fee waiver. It's okay. So don't worry. All right. So regarding the publishing volume, for human area we 3 annually publish. So we 3 times publish the edition in February, June, and in October. While Poetica biannually published in April and in October. So you can see the issues that we have published in the website shortly. And then providing fee for reviewers, editors, and staff. But unfortunately, we do not have incentive as Poetica, Dialektika from UKI. But we provide the fee for reviewers, editors, and staff to work to conduct the dirty works of the journal. All right, so financially supported by the institution. So that's why we have a lot of fee waiver, because we financially supported by institution fully. Year by year for everything we need to run the journal. And last, involving students for both technical and editorial assistant roles. So as I said before, that actually there are mainly 2 parts of the journal management. So I'm here in charge for the management, and then editorial board in charge for the substantive work. So I have staff from students, and they will assist me to to initially screening the papers, the submitted papers, and also the technical things as website management, etc. So here we go. The editorship, we have international advisory board. So the scholars from abroad, we encourage them to be as the advisory board to give suggestion to develop our journals. And daily management is run by the management team and also the editors, internal editors or the local editors. And the editorial flows, or the cycle of the article submission. Firstly, of course, online submission, and also plagiarism check. Yep, plagiarism check. If it does not pass the standard that we have, so we have to give it back to the authors. And initial screening, we have the metrics for the initial screenings. Usually, I did this part with the students, and following the tape review, it will be conducted by the reviewers that has been assigned by editorial board or the editor-in-chief, and send review result to editors from the reviewers. And you can see the flow as displayed on the screen. But however, we still manage some problems. Actually, I'm sure it's general problems in managing the journal, that we need at least 6 months to proceed an article, an submitted article. So for those who not familiar with journal submission, will be get tempered sometimes, because the article they are waiting so long for the published article. But yeah, it's part of our dirty work. So just enjoy the show. Following up the next slide. All right. Yeah, it's I said before. Obstacle from Humanitarian and Politica, limited reviewers, as Mas Serrano said before, and also narrow coverage readers and authors actually, and articles input quality. So we still have some issue regarding it. However, by employing the qualified editors and reviewers, we are sure that we publish the qualified article at the end. Future plan, we need to broaden up the coverage, the reviewers and the authors and the editor as well. And also we need to make sure that the article quality is well maintained. And the last slide. Yeah, perhaps it's a bit out of the context, but this is what we have now. So, journal concern, perhaps I can see a false truth perspective by most Indonesian scholars, if I'm not mistaken. So, non-scopus journals are not that good to publish article, but in fact we have a lot of journals that have not been included or indexed by Scopus, but the journals is really good. But because we know that it follow up the regulation by the government, so here we are. And Western-based indexing standard in some areas do not really fit humanity-based journal, because we know that Western-based journals are more dealing with exact science, and so we find it's a bit hard to get into the top level of journals, particularly journal with scope in humanity-based. And the last humanity-based journals forum is perhaps needed to compromise the two things above. So I agree with Mas Serrano said in the keynote speech. So yeah, this kind of meeting is really important for us to perhaps strengthen up our journals. So yeah, to strike against the Western journal. Yeah, thank you for listening us. Good morning.
Thank you. Right. Okay, so let's go to the home-based journal. We have Paradigma and then later on International Review of Human Studies.
Thank you, Melanie. And we are waiting for the slides first. Yeah, can you make it bigger? Yes, thank you. My name is Rahayu Surtiati. It is a long name, so you can call me Yayu. I'm the editor-in-chief of Paradigma since 2015. In fact, our journal has been published since 2010, and at the time it is only printed journal. And in 2015, it becomes online journal, but we still print also the journal, because in Indonesia, when a researcher or lecturer write something, they have to submit the proof in written. That's why we still publish the printed one. And the journal is published twice a year. So we have a volume and then number for every year. But in 2019, we upgrade the publishing,
and now it is published 3 times a year, in April, August, and December. And in fact, we are processing the internationalization of the journal, and beginning from next year, I forgot to tell you that this journal is written in 2 languages. So the researcher can send us article written in Indonesian or in English. But next year, we still accept articles written in Indonesian for the publication of April and August. And in December, all the articles should be written in English. This is the way to go international more, because when now we are ranked second rank in the Sinta. Sinta is the name of Ramayana Queen, but it is in fact an acronym of Science and Technology Indexing. It is Indonesian indexing form. So that's about Sinta, about yes, and yes. So besides Sinta, we also have index in other indexing system, and for the scope, I think it is more or less the same as Journal of Humanities, because paradigma is called paradigma jurnal kajian budaya, so it is humanities, But the difference is we accept articles about humanities, but also any science that write the cultural aspects of one science. For example, from law science, we accept also articles. So they are talking about the law, but from cultural point of view. And then health science also. We have received article from health science, women studies, of course. So it is very broad. So the cultural studies is not only the traditional culture, but also what do we call it? We broaden our scope. So the editors board, of course, is international. So we have editors and reviewers, from America, United States, from Australia, from Malaysia, from Europe. I think it is from Netherlands and from France. Our journal not only publish articles about research, but also critiques on books. The 5 years, the latest, people can send us their critique about scientific books. And we accept also summary of thesis and dissertation. And now, in this faculty, the students, the undergraduate students, should write their final work not in form of what they call here a skripsi, it is like a small thesis, but they should write a journal article. So we publish also their articles. Of course, every time the name of the supervisor is written together with the student. Okay. Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's go to the National Review of Humanities Studies. Last one.
Thank you very much for the time. You have heard the most prestigious ones from all over the world, and now here comes the standard one, okay? Nana, just open the website, please. You can type in the Google, India Romeo Hotel Sierra, irhs.ui.ac.id. Everything that you need to know is in there. So, can you put it up on the main screen, please? Thank you very much. This is International Review of Humanities Studies, a very young journal, only 4.5 years. It was started by Nigerian people and Indonesian people, our editor-in-chief, Dr. Maman, so unfortunately he cannot be here. We publish annually, two times, in January and in July. All articles should be written in global English, and usually process of reviewing takes about 3 months or more. So yeah, it's like from UGM, we are still a new journals. It's so hard to encourage the reviewer to please do it fast for us, etc. So yeah, usually the authors will be angry and etc. Okay. What else should we need to know? Okay, it's Sinta 4, our national accreditation. It's COM-nya 20, I don't know that in English, I'm sorry, but they will need to hear it. It's 20 COM, so for lector, yeah, you can use it. For lector, well, I don't think so. Yeah, okay. I think that'll be all. You can submit in our OJS and also can send to our email, rhs@ui.ac.id. Usually our website is working, but sometimes it's not. Bear in mind that Wacana and Paradigma is Sinta 1 and Sinta 2. This is not, this is Sinta 4, so yeah. Please bear in mind that. Okay, thank you very much. We will be waiting for your article. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. So let us give another applause for all of them. Now let's ask questions. Questions from the audience, please. Any questions you have in your mind about publishing, about submitting your work? Please. Oh yes.
You'd like to ask the youngest journal. So being so young, how do you, in addition to your wonderful presentation right now, right? So how did you get, authors' attention, invite, submissions and all that? Yeah.
Thank you, Professor Milani. Okay, I don't know why, but first of all, but I don't know why I got so many articles, but usually it's from Nigeria, Burkina Faso, and Niger, like Delta State University, University of Lagos, etc. Maybe because we have 2 editor-in-chiefs, from here, and I cannot spell his name perfectly, but you can see it in our website. It's called Chukwu or something, but I don't want to offend him, but I think. Yes, I think he's someone that he has a doctoral degree and maybe a professor in this university, and well, maybe it's his students or his, I don't know, followers. And in Indonesia, well, ma'am, I have to tell you that we as a university lecturer need to publish 1 or 2 articles every 1 or 2 years. So that's why this journal was created actually in the first time. For practical purposes. Yes. Well, the consumer is Indonesian, by the way, so why? Yeah. That's why we publish in January and in July for the first term in Ganjil, odd terms and in even terms. Yeah. Oh, it's usually 6,000 words. Yes, like more or less 1,000 words. According to our government standards. Because we have, yes, we have a regulation. Yes, the government will ask our OJS passwords. They will go in and examine everything. But do not worry, we have accreditation until January 2026. So you will be safe actually. I think that answers all your questions, ma'am. Oh, thank you very much. You are so kind. Thank you very much.
We are required to publish every semester, not every 2 years. Any questions? Yeah. Please do not be shy if you have questions about how to publish or how to,
Melanie, may I address a question?
Oh yes.
Thank you. A point that I think you have not mentioned enough. This is a question of language, right? What language do you use to get published, right? I know, did you notice that we're most, I think all of us are in English, right? Yeah, and my long years of experience in journal publishing, I've seen that this is really prohibitive. Because there are experiences, especially for us in the humanities, the kind of experience that we deal with in our articles are real. And they are drawn from real life, right? And sometimes it's not the inadequacy of the experience, but the inadequacy of the English language to capture that kind of experience that we deal with in our articles. So I think we really must talk about that. Now, one thing, when I was still editor of Critical Cultura, which I founded, I saw that problem already. And so the way I resolved it is to ensure that simply require of people who prefer to publish their works in the vernacular, let's say, to ensure that their abstract is much longer than the usual one. So that what happens in the abstract is a full argument of the article, right? So that presumably those who are really interested in that article are specialists, right? And do need a basic understanding of the argument that's been put there. And I thought that worked. And I'm doing the same thing now for Unitas as well, right? And so that's the reason why I still get contributions from writers in the vernacular, in Tagalog or in Zumbado, right? I think it's one I learned from the translation study section of Critical Cultura, that you really need to, what you were mediate. You really need to mediate, at least language share of prints between the audience and the journal, because knowledge production is important, especially from those who come from the margins, because that's the one that the cosmopolitan center will never know, right? And that's why we're always running after authors, hoping that those who would prefer to write for cosmopolitan centers, journal, would also, by the way, if I have time, also write for us. You know what I'm saying? So it's a serious problem, and especially for those to whom English is really not the first language and really the second language. We are happy, or just fortunate, if we like to put it that way, in the Philippines, because English is not really foreign to us. The quality of the language, of course, not as good as it was during my parents' time, but still pretty good based on my observation. And so we want to accommodate that context, no? With which I think we have a responsibility as journalists. So what I'm saying is, if you don't want to write in English, that's not a problem, right? So long as you give us an abstract that's full in English, that's fine by us. Thank you very much.
Any questions about language problem, about editorial issue? Yes, please. Yes.
Thank you very much. Selamat malam wabarakatuh. Let me introduce myself. My name is Tulkarniani. You're student of Niani. I'm a student of postdoctoral degree program, doctoral program. I would like to ask all of you this. From various explanation, I have more basic information, but how long it will take after we submit our paper, how long we can get information that our paper accepted or not. That's it. Thank you.
Yes, this again question about how long. How long should they wait until they know that their papers are accepted or reviewed or something, because they have to wait before they can maybe send it to another journal if it's not accepted. So how long? Yeah? Maybe in Paris, you said it's 6 months, or can you do it earlier to announce whether the essay is considered or
Yeah, thank you for the question, and it's actually hard to answer because, we still have, as we said, we cannot guarantee how long we can give the answer. However, actually, for the initial screening or the initial assessment, we can draw kind of initial decision whether the article will be published or not. And if it cannot be published in the journal, we will directly inform the authors. So it will be around 2 weeks from the submission as the initial decision. And from the review process, it depends from the reviewers, but whenever it enters the review process, from human area and Poetica, it will take around 4 up to 6 months actually. Perhaps other journals can complete it.
Thank you.
I want to add that it's like that, very fast we tell the writer if their article cannot be published in our journal. But the quickest publication is 3 months after the submission, and the latest is 6 months. But in Indonesia, we have a regulation that when you publish, when a university or a professional organization publish a journal, articles from local articles, only 40%, and 60% should be articles from outside. That's the problem also, because we want to publish fast, but there's no place. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so only 40% should be from institution. The rest should be from the outside.
The numbers from
government
regulation. Where did we get the numbers from?
Okay, so still asking the question about how long? Maybe
for China, it will take about 6 months as well.
to say whether they are not accepted, maybe.
if you send us the abstract, we can give a quick answer whether it is suit to our theme or the standard of our journal. So you can send first the abstract to our journal, then we can see from the abstract whether it is well passed to the suitable with the next theme.
The theme of the journal, because
Wacana is thematic journal.
So
So it depends, yes, whether your article are within the scope of the theme.
So when it is not accepted, it's quick, but when it is accepted, then it takes a long process. You have to go major revision or minor revision.
So we have initial screening, so internal review, around 2 to 4 weeks. We can,
2 to 4 weeks, yeah.
but that's internal review. So,
Internal review.
Yeah. So and then we have a variation of results. So it could be like automatic rejection, desk rejection, or it could be revise and resubmit internally. After that, it could go to the external double-blind peer review, which will take around 6 months.
So
Minimum.
Minimum of 6 months to be.
Because again, like we're handling a lot of manuscripts. I suppose to add a further distinction, because we try, I'm not sure if we succeed all the time, but we try to put value in our production process. So we have a team of copy editors, proofreaders, layout artists, and they work hard to make sure that the citation is correct, the language is as elegant as possible, so that it can be communicated to audiences in the Philippines and abroad. So that takes additional time. So we would consider that layer of intervention very important as well. And I suppose that's also maybe something useful for journals who want to project internationally. Okay, so the production time. Again, the costs, of course, of time.
Yeah, commonly we have 4 to 6 months for the process. Yeah, 4 months is the fastest, but also we cannot guarantee, right? There is no guarantee. What I say.
But in order to know whether it's accepted or not, they need to.
Yeah, similar to Kritika Kultura, we have the internal reviewing process, initial process. Then it will take probably 2 or 3 months because what I said, we lack of the reviewers and editors, so it takes time. But 4 to 6 months, I think that's common, right, for journals to publish an article.
Theoretically, because you come out twice a year, theoretically we have 6 months between one and the other. But within those 6 months, production is really just 1 month. 1 month. And I mean, as in layout and all that, right? Another month for back and forth with the author, so you're just left with 3 months. That's basically the spread of the work.
Okay. Almost the same, or 4 to 6 months. Okay. Other question? Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. My question is for Kritika. My name is Atika. I'm a doctoral student of Universitas Jakarta. Okay, I'd like to ask that I see that among all the journals here, only you in the scope of children's, right? If I'm not mistaken there, I just read that. Okay, so my questions here, there are 2 questions. The first one is, does this code meaning that you also account for the children's literature critics, or it is also from, let's say, the research on how Indonesian children perspective on a certain situations that I've ever been doing. For example, is how is the Indonesian children's response, for example, in independent era. And then my second question is, you mentioned about the cost there. How much does it cost for publishing, doing publish? Yes, thank you. That's my questions.
Okay. Thanks for your question. To address your first question, yes, we're quite open in terms of the scope of the journal. Children's literature definitely falls within literary and cultural studies. So a scholarly manuscript on children's literature is most welcome. That said, if you wish to focus on Indonesian children's literature, that's also fine. Again, as I was telling in my keynote speech, with the added, I suppose the added task of making sure that the context is clear to readers outside of Indonesia. Okay, so meaning to say a lot of, if you like, context building, I suppose, making sure it's clear to other authors who may not necessarily be familiar with the national traditions from which you work. And I think, if I may add in a more expanded way, maybe that's one of the difficulties of so-called cosmopolitanism, if we'd like to think so, internationalism, if we'd like to think so. We would like to think of ourselves as cosmopolitan, international, but it's actually difficult to address another scholar who is not necessarily familiar with our national traditions. So say, for example, this is, I suppose, familiar for students who studied abroad. If you studied abroad, particularly Europe, North America, they will ask you, who is Nick Wakil? And I'm like, oh, sorry, like, took him up in high school and stuff like that. But then they wouldn't know. Now, if we are, and that's, Europe, North America. What more, as we are discovering in Island Studies Conference over the past 2 days, like, pretty much, I think I will lose all my money buying books mentioned in the conference. So that's, yeah, sorry, Lulu. Yeah. That's the thing. So, meaning to say, like, these are authors who may I have perhaps encountered in journal articles, but may not necessarily have read. So, in that sense, yes, our journal is welcome to look at manuscripts from Indonesian children's lit, but we will really need to work on kind of like building context, addressing audience. Next, for your next question, there is a cost. Typically, like if you're an open access journal, supposedly it's free. Supposedly, but that's kind of like a myth because there is labor involved. Okay, so the kind of like the invisible labor, if it's open access, you maybe just register in the website or you just download directly. But the labor involved is in the editorial process. The labor involved is in the copy editing process. I'm not sure if your question is like, are editors paid or contributors paid, or could you clarify the?
You just answered my question.
Okay.
Yes, how does it goes on our, let's say it was submitted to Kritika Kultura and then accepted, how long does it goes until our article is published?
No, okay, so we don't have any publication fee.
Oh,
yeah, so yeah, there's no publication.
That's great.
Okay.
Other question? Yes, please. Any other question? Question? No one? Yes, please.
This is just I'm just wondering whether your journals are indexed with, let's say, Scopus or Thomson Reuters. I was wondering whether there's an aspiration to go there. Because in the Philippines, I know that there's pushing, we're aiming for that, like indexing, and I believe that critical culture is not indexed for quite some time now with those.
So thank you for asking that question, Corey. Yeah, of course, the whole world, not the whole world, many places in the world would like to get indexed in these databases, which is really crazy, no? Because really, it's different. I think most Asian countries I've discovered in my own networking, it's many Asian countries are really concerned about this indexing, only China. But not too many. But in the United States, they really don't care about the indexing. They care about the MLA. If your journal is indexed in the international bibliography of MLA, then that's fine. That earns them brownie points. But not necessarily in terms of what's not owned by Clarivate. Not used to be owned by Thomas Reuters. It was bought by, what Clarivate bought from Thomson Reuters, that really cost them a lot. This is business. Don't forget that it's capitalism at work. It's not knowledge production or improvement of humanity. Nothing to do with all that. It's the Web of Science, Arts and Humanities Citation Index. That's the one that costs a lot. And that, in the Philippines, the only journal that's indexed in Arts and Humanities is really Critical Cultura. So everybody's rushing to get published in Critical Cultura. Because in the universities in the Philippines, if you get published in a journal that's indexed in the Arts and Humanities Citation Index, you get 50,000 pesos, 60,000, 90,000 pesos on that. But you're published. If you publish 2 articles in those types of journals, you can buy a car already, right? So this is really what it's all about, economics. In the Asian Journals Web Network, which is a new network of journals in Asia that I have helped establish, this is one of the values that we really want to interrogate. I mean, do we just want to get indexed there? Because our universities are okay. I don't know about Universitas Universitas Indonesia. My university is so crazy about that, right?
Yeah.
Right? And because when I set up Critical Cultura, they hadn't invented those yet. I just set it up because I knew it was needed. I had to have a conversation with somebody in my field. I had none of those. So Critical Cultura is really meant to as a forum for exchange. Of course, I didn't know it would. Someday there'll be from some Reuters or there'll be Scopus. Scopus is not really hard to get into, You just follow I applied. It was my time to apply for this and apply. First, everyone, all I have to do is look at the requirements. It's so long I should comply. Right, that's fine. The only fortune of Critical Cultura is pioneering in terms of open access.
Yeah.
Right? Of course, my university did not like that. I was constantly fighting with the administrators, right? But I said, I have nothing to do with you. I just want to publish this. So in the first days of Unitas, Critical Cultura, I was spending my own money producing it, right? So don't worry about those, right? I know you are all, aren't you, right? We're all pressured by our universities, right? We just do our best to produce the excellent journals we can produce. That's the end of the story. Right? Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Other questions? You have other questions? No? No more questions? Okay. Do you have the last words to say, any of you? You want to say something to those who want to publish? No? No more? Yes, please.
So, Bapak Ibu, if you want to submit your article in our journal, International Journal of Humanities Studies, make sure that you also have turned it in what is similarity checking process. So submit it together with your abstract, your full paper, and also make sure that your references at least, if I'm not mistaken, 20. Okay, so then after that, we can proceed to the next process. So Pak Sulkifli, if I'm not mistaken, your question, Pak Sulkifli or Pak, yeah. So if you submit your full paper based on the template and also submit also the result of the turn it in, similarity check, and then after that references, make sure that more than 20 is good. So yes, only that. Thank you.
Now, as far as similarity index, what is the maximum percentage of similarity? 20%. So 20%. 10%.
More than 10%, the writer should revise
Okay, so the similarity index maximum is 10%. If it is more, then you have to revise. If more than 20, it's rejected. Okay. Alright, now no other messages? No? Ah, okay. Let us give applause